welcome to a new online show in the Feminist for Real interview series, a new Brave and Bold Tudor Communications project dedicated to female leadership and entrepreneurship. This interview is hosted and broadcast by Backstage Production Group Studios. With their help, we'll bring to light a lot of notorious Romanian and international professionals in various fields, supporter of female entrepreneurship and leadership worldwide. Technology helps us to connect worldwide with our interviews. So we are in Brussels now with Yulia Stark, the president of the European Women's Association, international keynote speaker, board member, and serial entrepreneur. Yulia Stark, welcome to our studios.
Thank you so much. Good morning from quite cold Brussels, actually. It's only 15 degrees, so I'm a bit jealous what's happening in Romania.
We are very honored to have among us in this new series of interviews. Please let me introduce you to our public. As I say, you are president of the European Women's Association. And over the last 50 years, you focused on building ecosystems and business bridges, establishing strategic, mutually beneficial partnership and globally. Your early career lies in private banking, where you manage investment portfolios of your high net worth client. Living in the heart of Europe, Brussels, as I say, you offer strategic opportunities connected east and west, and you developed a strong network of investors, business leaders, entrepreneurs, and technology partners. You are active in the startup and scale-up scenes, connecting founders to business angels and venture capital. As you are a president of European Women's Association, you strongly believe in economical empowerment of women through education, entrepreneurship, and gender-lens investment approach. So, which is the goal you aim for European Women's Association, Yulia?
Thank you so much for this introduction. Well, the main goal, I think it's economical empowerment of women and to get them more connected to capital. As you said before, my background is investment banking, so I still cherish that passion for business and for growth of capital. And in the past, I was doing that for families. I still do for a few of them, but mainly focusing now on startups, especially startups who have this mix in teams. So not only women, not only men, but having this diversity leads to more success in business, and that's been proven before. So now in the last, I would say 7-8 years, we've been focusing on building the right ecosystem access to investments, to governments, to needed networks to make that happen.
As I say, European Women's Association is a global promoter of gender equality. You can talk about examples of good practices you've experienced worldwide?
Yeah, so we started in Belgium in 2013 with the first accelerator program for female founders, startups here in Belgium, and that grew gradually towards UK and Netherlands, a bit of Germany and France. So we've been working with neighboring countries, but with COVID, that accelerated our access and growth, like you said, Diana, with the technology we have. So the beauty is now, thanks to COVID, we are so much easier approachable by Zoom, by these kind of sessions, and that gives us a possibility to collaborate with countries that we wouldn't even think to work with because we didn't know the great practices they have for women in business. And I just give you an example. Since last year, October, we've been actively involved in the Expo 2020 in Dubai, in UAE. So UAE apparently has done in the last 5 years much more than Europe has done when it comes to gender equality. As an example, 50% of the government is female, over 35% of female founders and of entrepreneurs are female founders, and they invest millions into getting that threshold done. So we can learn from countries that we maybe thought we wouldn't. They were a bit maybe late. They started later with, for example, gender equality, but they catch us up. So there are countries now. We are going to Singapore soon as well. We will explore Latin America as well. And this summer we are collaborating with an organization. It's called Pitch at the Beach, where we'll be inviting international female founders and scale-ups to Portugal to pitch to international investors. So we will guarantee that business will be done. And again, this is done thanks to this international ecosystem where we can learn a lot from, and they need access to our founders that are talented, amazing, and also in tech, and thus scalable.
You are an interesting mix of diverse culture. You were born and raised in Ukraine, educated in Brussels, and working worldwide. How important is to mix all this diverse culture? How they can help to understand the multiculturality of different worlds?
Well, I think nowadays a lot of I would say research has been done on the impact of diversity on ROI. At the end, it is about business. At the end, it is about having better and competitive results than your competitors or other colleagues, I would say. And diversity is actually the key to that. My background, so my dad is Russian, my mom is Ukrainian, but I grew up in Belgium, studied business management. And what I've seen in the past, I've been the only woman and the youngest woman in my wealth management bank. So I felt that I had to man up and I had to adapt and I had to become one of them. And of course, with no success. And it took me years to understand the value of diversity. And I remember my ex-CEO, Stefan Richter, he told me, Yulia, you're not a standard employee. You should explore being an entrepreneur. And I felt actually offended because I thought maybe I'm not a good employee. He said, no, your numbers are great, but I think there's so much more passion in who you are. And I've seen that happening around me a lot. A lot of women who stick into their boxes because, I don't know, they were raised like that you have to have a 9-to-5 job, you don't have to take risks, especially in Belgium. We are quite, I would say, risk averse when it comes to entrepreneurship. We are living in a very social system here. We are quite protected. So, taking risks isn't something you are raised with because you just have to build your career. But when you bring in diversity, Eastern Europe, for example, we have few examples of Eastern Ukrainian, for example, developers in the team. They bring so much hard work and so much energy into in our teams. And countries that are still, I think, I'm not sure if it's politically correct to say that, but countries that are still developing economically, I've seen they've got amazing talents. Because these talents had to fight for the place. They are so much hardworking. I've got two ladies Chinese in my team. Oh my gosh. I don't know when they sleep, but these ladies are the hardest working ladies I ever knew. And this is something that has to do with their upbringing, the way that being brought up in the families. So again, coming back to diversity, it brings different perspective, different energy for sure. And it opens your horizon and mind to other cultures. And that means you learn from them so much so you can approach new markets. Now I understand Chinese markets a little bit better. I understand Ukrainian market thanks to my team a little bit better. And thanks to having partners in UAE, I understand Arab culture a bit better. So, and that gives me so many more opportunities as a business to scale and approach the new markets. So it's a must, I think, for every business.
I would like to invite you to talk about the values of women leadership as you experienced in these different cultures.
The values, I think, first, when you enter a new market, you are full of ignorance. I remember my first trip to UAE, it was 10th of May last year. I came in and there was nobody working that week. And I was like, what's happening? Apparently it was Eid. Like, when after month of Ramadan, they have this 1 week of holidays. I did not know anything about Eid. I just arrived and expected people to meet me. And this was my first lesson of ignorance and not understanding the culture and the religion when you enter in the market. So I had to learn my lessons fast. They have a different pace of work. They have a different way of communication. So I would say the superficial level, we are quite different. So you need to understand the cultural differences to not mess it up. But when you speak to women deeply in a safe environment, apparently they share the same challenges as I do, as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter. So in the core, we are quite the same, and we want to be there for our loved ones. And often we have our bigger ambitions. So at European Women Association, we attract women with bigger goals and ambitions, but they do struggle. They do struggle to have it all. They do struggle to have a family, to have a free time for themselves, and to run their business, and to inspire employees, and to be everywhere at the same time. So I think, first of all, be aware of the cultural differences, understand them, work with people, but then also know at the core, we are the same, we have the same challenges, and we can solve that by building these bridges and by doing that together.
Returning to European Women's Association, which is an ecosystem supported by the European Commissions and companies such Deloitte, Morgan, Stanley, NasdaQ, you are doing a great efforts to create bridges between entrepreneurial success stories in which women are the protagonists. We are talking about promoting and supporting business women. How do such organizations help in promoting and supporting business women?
As I said, you're correct. So EWA is an ecosystem. So we've seen in the past, by just sitting together, women entrepreneurs, it's good to have the support, but you need more. You need governments, like you said, European Commission. Together with European Commission and Deloitte, we, in the next 3 years, so starting from this year, we started a program to get more women into STEM, girls into STEM, and get more women into entrepreneurship. Because every country knows it's good for the GDP. But then you need corporates. Corporates play also an important role. For example, if I give you example of Google, they've got amazing startup programs when it comes to digital skills for women, but they don't really have a separate programs for women. It's in general. So you have access, so they give access to their database, I would say knowledge base, and trainings for free to female founders. NasdaQ is needs more women to go into IPOs, to go to the stock exchange, to go public. There are still not enough women going public with the companies. So they have different support system initiatives that promote women and getting that fast. So they support with different programs as well. Morgan Stanley, for example, they have accelerator programs for women. You do have to go through a certain process to get selected, but once you do, you get also financial support for the first, like a prototype, for example, that you are building, and of course the ecosystem. So this is how we connect, and the government, as I said, they give you extra knowledge and access and network as well for free for you to accelerate your success. So building successful businesses, it takes years. It takes a lot of sweat and tears as well. But it takes a whole ecosystem to make that happen. And that's why we are focusing mainly on the right structure for you women to join rather than on women themselves who need certain support. For us, it's more about the ecosystem, building these bridges, connecting to the right people, working with chambers of commerce. In some countries, they're quite powerful. In Middle East, chambers are very strong and they have a lot of status as well. So being part of that ecosystem opens many doors. We work with accelerator programs as well. Accelerator programs internationally, again, they give you funding, they give you network, they give you space and offices to work and support, legal support as well. So again, please research or reach out to us or to any other organizations that has all these players in place, because it's not enough just to have an accelerator or just have an investor. There's much more that needs to be done. By the way, 2 weeks ago, we were in Dubai and I was speaking at a conference. It's called the Innovation Summit, the Future Innovation Summit that happens every year. And the topic I was speaking was about how to grow unicorns. And we came back to the same question, like, how do you do that? Well, you need a lot of support. You need a lot of money. You need a lot of like hardworking team members to make that happen. And for women, even more, because we are foremost mothers as well.
EWA is about promoting solidarity, women's solidarity. Why is so important this kind of solidarity?
Well, look at the past. When thousands years ago, when men would go and hunt and leave their wives and their mothers and the children behind, it will take a whole village to raise a child. Women would gather around the fire in the evening and they would tell stories. And this is how great children will learn from their grandmothers. Women could have me time because, for example, the grandmothers will take care and support also with the children. And this is something we got lost in our modern world. We live in our fancy houses, quite isolated. We do not visit our parents anymore. And I'm speaking here about where I live in this western part of the world. It's not the case in Middle East, and it's a bit better in Eastern Europe. But here in the Western Europe, it's a challenge. So we are quite disconnected. So there is no support system around us. And of course, everybody has to work, and some of us have 2 jobs, and we've got families. And when it gets hard, and we've seen that happening with COVID, you feel like you are falling apart. There is no support system. There is nobody who understands how you feel and the challenges you're facing. So during COVID, we've been organizing weekly online sessions because we couldn't meet offline, where women could share their challenges. And it wasn't like a psychology session at all, but for these strong women to admit that they are not okay and that they need help. Often it was business oriented. That gave them so much power, realizing they're not alone and there was always somebody who could help you. So sometimes, listen, I'm always asking, when you network, listen to the stories around you and think how you can refer, how you can help. This is how you build your, it's like, how do you say it in English? Just when you do like, it's like an account, and with every good deed and referral, there's like money coming in, and you can then exchange it for if you will need help. So please support women, even if you don't know them, because there are not enough of us in the top roles and the leadership roles. So it's your responsibility to lift her up. Even if you maybe not like, she's not your best friend, but please try to lift women up. Yesterday, I was at a book launch of a friend of mine, Suin. And Suin was launching a book. And we were speaking about numbers of how many women authors are out there in the business department. And there was a lady that she was interviewing. She was a top sport in alpinism. And she said, listen, I'm getting invited to keynotes just because I'm a woman and I hate that. I'm not going to keynotes because they choose me by gender. Well, you know what? That's the reality. And if that's what it takes, go out and speak there, because you being on stage, one of 100 men, one woman and 100 other men, did give inspiration to other young girls to follow their dreams in sports or in writing. So at this stage, we're still not there yet. But use any chance there is to empower other women, but also take chances, even if because you're a woman, to speak and on stages and promote your story.
I would like to invite you to talk a little bit about the role models, women role models in your life, about your mentors.
I thought about it because I received this question before. Unfortunately, I couldn't find one person that I said, well, she has it all. I've been reading a lot about successful women in business, in spirituality, in family. But I haven't found one woman that has it all. So I will have like different role models. I would once a year, I would travel to Bali and I would sit there for 10 days in Vipassana meditation. I would be surrounded by monks, and these women would also help me on my spiritual path, I would say. But at the same time, my mom, she's still the biggest inspiration ever. She's been through cancer last year, and the way she handled it, the way she fought for her life, it was amazing. And I see myself becoming her in a way, because the way she brought me up, I do the same with my kids. And I realize how important it is now for my children to hear how amazing and talented and beautiful from inside and outside they are, that they can achieve anything. And my mom brainwashed me every single morning. When I would wake up, she would give me a lot of compliments, and she would hug me, and she would say, like, darling, the day is beautiful, life is great, and you're amazing, and you will achieve everything you want. And that sounded so ridiculous, but after years I started to believe that. So my mom, she gave me everything, and I think the confidence is the most important for us women to achieve bigger things. And then you have women in business, in scale-up system, in startup system, who would go public, who would go, will be successful. We've got politicians who would, I would say, stay feminine. And I'm speaking about Nordic countries here in Europe. You see ministers who are still amazing mothers and women and still lead the country. So there are several, and I hope one day I will be able to invent it all in one, and we'll have it all and have that family and career, and my spiritual path will be strong as well.
How do you identify and promote women talents in your organization?
Oh, this is like my favorite part, because I'm often invited to speak at events. I organize many events myself. So if there is a way to give a woman a stage and a microphone, I'll do that. And that's why I'm very close to our members, especially we have these premium members. These are women who have more mature businesses, and they're looking for funding. And we are speaking about 1 million plus euros in money. This is the hardest part, and this is where you need to promote and push and introduce them constantly. So, for example, in July, we will have a pitch at the beach. I will make sure I have a short list of female founders that I want to pitch to these certain investors. When we travel, because every few months we organize international trips with women where we're introducing a new country. I will make sure we have the right, and by right I mean those mature businesses who are ready to scale, and we will introduce them to the ministries, to the chambers, and to investors again, and to the right supportive group of women. We've seen by doing that, especially during this trip where we spent 5-6 days together, the friendships that come out of it are priceless. These women are years later are still in contact, are still supporting, buying from each other, promoting each other. So I can start, but at the end, what I've seen, women are doing that even more harder. So they are referring, they are supporting, promoting each other digitally, but also by personal introductions. So that's big. And I think that's the most beautiful part of it, because when you promote, like in my case, you give certain leverage in a way, because if I say, well, Michaela is amazing or Diana is amazing, well, people that trust me tend to trust then you as well. So that gives you immediately an opportunity to make that deal happen. Cannot do that with everyone, but at least giving the microphone is very important for us women to speak up and show how amazing you are.
What are the main challenges you faced in management organizations with a lot of women?
I think everything has to be in balance. When you have too many women, it gets, well, how would I say, too emotional often. When we got too many men, it's just like not enough emotion and emotional intelligence. So when I used to work with many corporates, and I would do different trainings or workshops around diversity and how to improve their ROI at the end of the journey. And when we would have, it has nothing in a way to do with the gender. First of all, we have to put people on the place that deserve that role. But again, when we are speaking about too many women of too many men, it's also not healthy. So challenges with women, I don't know. I think it's, well, sometimes too many emotions. I think that's the only challenge we could face. So we need some male energy in the group to balance that out. So everything has to be in balance.
How do you see the evolution of public policies for female entrepreneurship in Europe and worldwide?
Well, Europe is doing a lot, I should say. They are investing millions into awareness campaigns. There are funding opportunities for female founders, often in tech. There are even cultural funds when it comes to supporting different NGOs as well in Europe. When it comes to Middle East, as I said, like it's mainly UAE, I should say, because this is where we spent the last year. There you see as well, government changes policy and laws like that fast there to make sure that women are protected, that they can work, that there is some kind of support system for the children because there are larger families over there. So the government is very much involved. And in UAE, for example, it's quite active, and you see there is almost, I wouldn't say competition, but the private and public sector, they work together like very close and very fast. It's a bit different, I would say, here in Europe. It's it's an older system, and it takes time to change things. But I would say there is an interesting community. It's called WeGate, funded by Europe as well. And this is an organization that helps to change certain policies when it comes to female empowerment, especially in entrepreneurship. So if you're more interested in that kind of things, go to WeGate. You'll see a lot of initiatives. They come together monthly. I'm a part of their board, so I've seen a lot of things happening in a positive way. But still, it takes time. We have some quotas, we've got some guidelines, but we are not there yet.
How do you experience feminism in your personal, professional, and social life?
Well, I think we should define first what feminism means. Feminism has different connotations. It can be very, like when I speak about feminism to my partner, to my husband, he's like, oh no, here we go again. So
there are a lot of myths related to feminism, yes. And one of the most common is that feminism is against men, which is absolutely false.
So if you would say like, okay, feminism, like when it comes to equality, when women have the same pay as men, when we have the same rights, I'm all for it. I am against feminism, and it's been in Western Europe quite active, where you are against men, not really against, but you're competing with them. And this is something I don't like to see. I've seen in my career and within our ecosystem, we need men as well. We need this diversity. We've seen that the reality is the funding or the investments are still in male hands. So why should we compete if we can achieve so much more together? So for me, it's about men as well. It's collaborating, it's learning from them as much as they can learn from us. So I think this is something we need to redefine, because in Western Europe, feminism did not have a good reputation in the last decades because we were too aggressive fighting for our rights. I think we've done that. That's great. We can vote, we can drive, we can do any work we want. Now we need to find a way to doing it together instead of against each other.
And one last thought, how do you see the future of the feminine leadership?
You know, a few months ago, when I heard the message that my brother is going to war in Ukraine, he's still there, I wrote a message on LinkedIn saying, I wish one day women will lead, because they remember they are all mothers, and they will not send their sons to war. And women will find a way of leading from the heart and not with weapons. And that message went viral, and I had different opinions about female leadership from different people. But at the end, I truly believe that emotional intelligence is the key in conflicts, in economical growth, in raising our children, and there needs to be a shift done. It's a fact. We've seen that men are amazing, but they tend to fight. Women tend to preserve, because we do think about next generation. And I'm generalizing it. There are men, of course, who are thinking the same as we do. But in general, look at the practices. And yes, we've seen women leading even harder than men. And I got examples of Margaret Thatcher and you name it. Yes. But if you look in general to women, they think long term. They think about next generation, about the children and the Mother Earth. And this is something I truly hope that by us women uniting, not against men, but uniting, and bringing more of being in leadership roles when it comes to technology, government, not only in families, because that we manage that to do. Now we need to go to the next step. And the more diversity there is, the more equality is on that higher level, this is when we will shift to more soulful leadership, I would even call it, where we do think about long-term sustainable leadership. And this is what, for me, leadership means. And I think, again, men will learn that from us, and we will learn from them as well, many things. So again, doing that together, this is how we will avoid, I hope, wars, and we will move to more sustainable and green energies. This is maybe a very philosophical question, but I still hope it will happen.
Do you have a message for Romanian women entrepreneurs?
Well, thanks to Mihaela Tudor, I've met amazing Romanian women in Brussels and in Dubai. I must admit, I did not know how amazing they are, how amazing entrepreneurs they are, and mothers and wives at the same time. So I wish more of you ladies would speak up, would show up, and expand the boundaries. I mean, your geographical ones. So you go more abroad and expand your businesses. And I think this initiative that you're doing right now is a great place for that. I'm happy to share also their stories on our platform. And I think this is the first step. Go out of Romania. Go to Europe, go to Middle East, go to Africa, because all of tech products that you are building in Romania are very adaptable for larger markets like US and Africa. So for me, I look forward to collaborate closer with these ladies.
Dear Yulia, thank you so much for this insightful conversation about values of leadership worldwide. And thank to our public for the interest for this Feminist for Real interview series, a new editorial project created by Tudor Communication. Thanks to our partner, Backstage Group Studio, for hosting and broadcasting. We are looking forward to see another great protagonist talking about values of leadership, women leadership worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Look forward to see you soon.
Bye. Bye.